Okay, hi everyone, this is SmithyQ, SmithyQ.com, and here today we're going to be looking at the 6th Longplay game. And this here is the 3rd game in a row that I played after I hung my queen. I wasn't thinking very well, and we're going to see that exactly here, how I'm making a lot of second best moves, and in many cases having the right idea but muddling it, getting the move order wrong. And that is, in fact, the main issue with this game, is that I'm consistently, at least in 2 major points, I get the order of moves incorrect. And one spoils a big advantage into a little advantage, and one loses the game. So let's take a look. I was white. As you can see, my rating has fallen from almost 2,000, 1,800. But again, my rating right now is still provisional. It's going to go up and down very, very quickly. I played the open Sicilian, so here we go. Knight f6. My opponent plays a6. And I must confess, I don't really understand. Of course, a6 is very, very common in the Sicilian. It's one of the most common moves in virtually all of them. But in the Sicilian, the most important square by far is the e5 square. And black always needs to be wary of anything that white can do on this square, because often white can get a big advantage or an initiative or a good position if you can invade on e5. And that's really the thing. If you're playing white in the open Sicilian, very often the battle revolves around e5. And so here, of course, there's only one piece defending e5, so I exchange it. If he takes the d-pawn, then, well, he's got a really annoying endgame to try and deal with here. So, of course, he takes that pawn, but then I can play e5 myself, and he goes all the way back. And so we can see that the opening has been a huge failure for my opponent. After 7 moves, he has no pieces developed. In fact, no pieces that can even easily develop at all, and the only developing moves he has on the board are these 2 squares. Contrast that with me. I've got control of up to the 5th rank, huge space advantage, already a piece developed. It's my move. Both my bishops can come into the game, and white has a very strong position. I start with queen f3. I want to castle queenside, and also black probably wants to challenge this pawn, maybe with d6. If he plays d6 now, then he's going to lose the pawn because c6 will hang. And that means that in order for black to do that, is he's going to need to spend time, probably to do something like this. But even if he does that, the bishop is still hanging, and so then you have to do something like this. And that's a lot of tempi, with his king still stuck in the center with me fully ready to develop. My opponent plays queen c7. This is another way of defending this pawn. But, of course, bishop f4, I'm threatening e6. He plays e6, and just look at these squares. Can I make them red? Yeah, red. So incredibly weak. If I can clamp a knight down right there, the game is practically won at that point. It's just the squares are too weak. And I had a chance to do that right away. I could have played knight e4 with the threat of knight d6 right away. Let's just do it. Get it there. Now, the disadvantage, let's say, I don't know, black does, what does black do? Let's think of a move for black. Let's say rook b8. Okay, well, I'd probably castle first. Black does something. Let's make him do h6, say. All right. Now, it's true, after knight d6, pawn takes, pawn takes. You could take, taking with the rook doesn't really do anything. The rooks aren't very good in holes like this. Okay, I could bring my other rook over maybe, but as long as the bishop's here, I'm not going to really break through. So after this position, it's true that I have, let's make a move for black. So I have a pawn on this square. I'd much rather have a knight, or virtually any other piece except for a rook. But I'm doing absolutely fantastic. Again, his king is stuck in the center. That's great. And so I can increase the pressure, for example, like queen g3 or queen c3, or I'm hitting g7. I can get ready to play g5, h4, g5, opening things this way. I can easily bring, say, my bishop to c5 and b3 to defend against his attacks, preparing f4, f5. There's a lot of arrows here. This would have been a good way of playing. I mean, excellent. Black really has to hang on. I castled first, which is a move I want to do. But notice how he can now play knight e7, and then if I play knight e4, he can move the knight out to g6. And before, his knight was stuck over here on g8, now we got free. Compare that, okay? Back up. If I play knight e4 right away, he can't play knight e7. Well, knight d6 is just going to eviscerate him, right? He moves over. At the very least, I've got this. Go back. I can pick up the free rook. Or maybe I don't even need to. Maybe I can just keep my guy right here and try and get an attack this way, right? Even without picking up the rook, White has a fantastic compensation and fantastic initiative. I'm already up a pawn. So we can see that if I were to play knight e4 first, I'm stopping Black from doing an idea like happens in the game. So I castle, which isn't so much a bad move, but it's slightly suboptimal. Because again, knight e7, and now knight e4 doesn't do so much. Well, knight e4 is still the best move in this position. It's just he'll be able to move his knight all the way out. And then here, I play bishop d3, which makes, again, a lot of sense in the fact that I want to develop my last piece, get my the other rook into the game, and everything is great. But every move has a downside, is that the bishop is blocking my rook, so that's not very good. My bishop is currently staring at nothing. It's not really helping. And there's no good squares on the diagonal to my bishop. For example, if I put my bishop on e4, like this, then my knight can't come to e4. If the knight can't come to e4, it's really hard to put this knight in a better square because, you know, Black's pawns are really annoying. And so bishop d3 makes sense based on basic opening principles, but based on the concrete nature of this position, it's suboptimal. It just gets in the way, right? It gives Black a chance to untangle. And we can see that. I play bishop d3, he plays rook b8. Okay, I bring my rook in, he got queen b7. And so my pieces are absolutely great, but it's really hard to do anything right now. What's my next move? Okay, I've got to protect against mate. So I play b3. And it's hard to bust in. I kind of missed my first chance. I'm still doing better, right? I'm not losing or anything, right? But I could have been doing more. I could have taken advantage better. But okay, chess is a game. This happens. He plays knight d5, of course. What else is he going to do? His pieces are jammed up. He's only attacking with 2 pieces right now, his queen and his rook. He's got to get his army into the game. If he takes too long, again, I can move my queen, move my bishop, and eventually maybe get f4, f5, or g4, or something, right? Something's going to give. He plays knight d5. And then here, I didn't consider anything else. I simply took, and then played queen e2. The queen e2, again, I moved my queen out of the way. I'm going to eventually get the f-pawn rolling. But already the computer doesn't like my position much anymore. Let's back up. The problem with knight takes d5 is that it fully blocks the center. Fully blocks it. I have 2 bishops, and they want an open center. With this fully blocked, it's hard for my bishops to do a lot. Also notice he now has an open c-file. So if he ever gets untangled, right, castles, or he does something, he gets the rook over the c-file, that's an open file against my king. We don't really want that. And then after I play queen e2, the computer just thinks this is too slow. And Black can immediately start with a5 and then a4. And the game is equal, it says. So White doesn't even have an advantage anymore. What can we do instead? The computer has 2 actual suggestions here. They sort of flip back and forth between which one is best play. One example is just to continue with knight e4 right away, and we don't care if he takes our our bishop. Doesn't matter at all, because now we have a light squared bishop. Our dark square bishop was just staring at the pawn, so it wasn't doing much. This is good enough. Even after knight here or knight here, we're actually threatening devastation on f7. And things are okay. Things are very nice here, actually. Another possibility is to move the queen to somewhere on the g file, where we're hitting g7. If we can force him to ever play g6, you know, with knight f6, the dark squares are too weak, even though I don't have a dark square bishop. We're going to crush in. So knight e4 is one possibility. Again, knight e4 is very, very thematic. I wasn't even thinking about that. Again, I was so tilted. I was so not thinking straight at the time that I couldn't think of anything else. So that my normal thinking process was just absolute crap. And so it's really interesting to look in at some of these errors. A second possibility would be to bring the bishop all the way back here. With the idea, if he ever takes, we can recapture. And I still have the two bishops. They're raking down these diagonals. The computer actually slightly likes this one more, though I think the knight e4 line is easier to play. And notice how the bishop is an excellent defender. He can't play, is stopping the a5. I can also zip down to b2, and it's almost like a reverse dragon or King's Indian type of position, where the fianchetto bishop on the line diagonal is always a beast. And it's also a great defender, so it does both things at once, completely stopping black's initiative. That said, in this position, even though the computer likes it more, it isn't as easy to see what the next follow-up is. I imagine it's going to be something similar. We're going to put the queen somewhere on the g file, push f4, f5, something along those lines, and it appears as if black has less counterplay. Not that black ever had much counterplay to begin with. And I completely missed both of these options. Why? Because when he played knight d5, what I noticed is that he's attacking my knight. My knight's undefended. I gotta do something about it. What do? I'm not gonna play king b2, that's silly. So I just took. That was my thought process. And you can actually see that here with the time, where it goes from 37 seconds to 46 seconds. So there's there's a 15-second increment. So I spent about 10 seconds, maybe less. Yeah, just on this one move. When I have 15 minutes to think for this whole game, right? 10 seconds. If I think longer, am I going to see knight e4 or bishop d2 or something else? Probably. But again, I saw it. My knight is attacked. Got to do something. I did a harebrained, silly move. Take. Queen e2. Play f4, f5. Peter doesn't really like this move, but there isn't a huge difference between this and what it suggests. Bishop a6. Kicks me over. He plays a5. So we can see how black now has his counterplay is much more pronounced than any other variations we looked at. Because I've given him time, I've given the exchanges, and the center isn't so blocked anymore. So we got a pretty clear idea of what he wants to do. And so then it's also interesting here, if we just look at the next two moves, is I bring my bishop all the way back to get him out of the way. That makes sense. Then I bring my bishop right back. So at this point, I'm essentially offering a draw. Because if he were to just move his bishop back and forth, that is what I would do. I would keep going, and I would be content for a draw in this position. That shows how far away how poorly I was thinking, how bad my mental makeup was during this game. I really shouldn't have been playing chess. I wasn't thinking straight. What could I have done instead? And again, we can see if you look at my time. Okay, so I spent about 30 seconds on this move, and I played this move almost instantly. What was my plan? Why did I play Queen e2? Because I want to use f4, f5, open things up. Well, he's attacking my... Why don't I just do that right now? I can play rook f1. And I rejected this, again, near instantly. I arguably didn't even think about it. Because it looks passive. It's behind the f-pawn. But in one move, we're going to get f4 in, we get f5 in, we get exchange. We're opening things up towards his king. Things are not bad. Not bad at all. But again, didn't think about it. Playing too quickly. Assuming that I just have to make the only move. Very rarely is the only move actually the only move. But again, I was playing terribly. Now, fortunately, around here, the game starts turning around. So he plays queen c... Okay, so first I make another silly move. So I play c4. Again, I play this with very little thought, which is a huge mistake, because it's a pawn move near my king, opening things up, not developing, like opening the c file. Near my... Okay, so I can maybe get to the c file first, but that's a pawn move. Also notice that now a4 will be coming with a bit more force, because this pawn has lost some protection. And the computer actually likes black now. And so after take, I thought, great, the position's opened up, things are good. But the position hasn't really opened up, in the sense that my bishop is still staring at this granite wall. There isn't a heck of a lot there. And it's not easy to put my bishop on a better diagonal, better square. Okay, so maybe I can put it to b5, but, well, not right now. That's being attacked. Coming back over to e4, that makes a lot of sense. That'd be great. Black could neutralize that at any point with bishop to b7, and also that's taking a lot of time. My bishop's moving around, not doing anything. And what's my follow-up? What's my next move? It's not really clear. Whereas what black could do is he could simply exchange. All right, what do I take back with? Probably the rook. And now he could castle. He could potentially try and keep his king in the center with something like king to e7. Though the computer says queen g4 destroys that instantly, so maybe not. Or black could just keep going with a4, just getting his attack as much as possible. Apparently, queen g4 isn't as strong now just because black's counterattack is very, very fast. So we'll back up. Fortunately, my opponent played d5. And then after take, he's losing. Just like that. And this actually makes, again, sense because, again, I have complete central control, but the center is blocked. He plays d5 to hit my bishop back. Okay, I take it. Then he plays this. This gives me a free tempi to do anything I want. And now this file is completely opened up. And I could potentially sacrifice... There's a whole bunch of stuff I could have done. Actually, there's two main ideas in this position. One is bishop b5 check, hitting his king, which is very uncomfortable. And the second is bishop to g5, with the idea of a discovered attack both on his queen, but also bring the rook all the way down, threatening mate. Now, I mentioned at the beginning how I made the central error I made, besides just playing poorly, right, was mixing up the move orders. Not playing the right moves in the right order. So again, there are two ideas. Bishop to b5, which is very annoying. We also have bishop to b4. And then let's not forget there's also potentially bishop takes b4. Because again, this bishop can move anywhere, and it's opening attack on the queen. Let's look at what happened had I played bishop g5. So again, I am threatening mate on d8 if the queen moves out of the way. So the queen has to move somewhere that keeps control of the square. Let's say it goes to b6. Well, then we can do the next idea, bishop b5 check, and we have full control of everything near the king. There's no point in blocking it, we could just take it. And if he tries to move his king, the only available square, we can come in with check. He takes the queen. We're up a queen. Hey! Not bad at all. So maybe we're thinking that maybe queen c7 is a better square. But the same thing. Bishop b5 is still check again. If he moves, this is the exact same variation. Blocking with the bishop doesn't really help at all because I can just take with the rook. We got discover attack, attacking the queen, so that's not very good. Sacrificing the exchange, well, I'm going to take with the queen. And it's pretty much the exact same thing. The only difference now is if he blocks, instead of taking the queen, we come down here. And so you can see that this isn't the hardest variation in the world to work out. It's pretty simple. You can almost make it up as you go. So that would have happened had I played bishop g5 immediately. Notice what happened. I play bishop g5. He has to move the queen. I check him. And then depending on what he does, I either take on d7 or I go down to d8. Not bad. I thought I could get a better version of this by playing bishop to b5 first. He blocked with the bishop. And then I played bishop to g5. With the idea that the rook is now attacking the queen, and if the queen moves somewhere, then the bishop and the rook are attacking each other. And that looks pretty darn good. Until he plays bishop takes b5, and everything falls apart. Notice that on A, I'm down a piece. I can't take back with check, because after take, I'm down a rook, so that's not going to be good. Blocking does absolutely nothing. That's probably the worst move on the board. Taking his queen, again, after take. The problem here is that if I recapture, again, the bishop comes back, and again, I'm still down a rook. In fact, there's nothing I can do. That's hence resignation. But this position here is still completely winning. I just need to change the idea around. I could have taken. How is he going to take back? If he takes back the king, we can play bishop takes b5, or b4, sorry, and he's all pinned. So that's pretty good. If he takes back with the queen, well, it's the same thing. Bishop takes b4, queen's attacked, queen has to move somewhere, I'm up a piece. This bishop is also on an absolutely freaking amazing diagonal. I can slide back to a3, I'm fully defended, black is toast. So both, sorry, if we back up, in this position, both bishop g5 and bishop b5 with similar ideas both win. And I just found the only order that didn't win by playing bishop e5 first and then bishop g5. Calculation completely failed me. And the reason why is that I saw they were both such powerful moves that it didn't matter what order I played them in. And I lost. And this is actually a very common mistake in my game. The worst game I ever lost, where I had a completely winning position. Like Peter said, it was plus 25 points in my advantage. I had two ways to get out of check. They both looked equally strong, and so I just picked one almost randomly. And I picked the one move order that didn't work. The one move order that went from plus 25 to almost assured victory against a title player to, well, losing my queen. That was the worst loss I've ever felt. I almost gave up chess after that loss, after that. And this is a very similar example, is that I haven't cured this particular fallacy inside my head, or for some reason, I still mess up when it looks like I've got two very good ideas that are very similar, and I don't quite do it. So this game is a very powerful reminder of that. And so, yes, I can dismiss a lot of this game as me playing really bad, and this is below my standard, even though I had a completely winning position by move 20, and for most of the game, honestly. But that's really cheating yourself. When you're looking at your games, right? Don't make excuses for yourself, especially if you find you're making the same types of mistakes over and over again. And for me, this mixing up the move orders, of having several possibilities and usually picking the wrong one. It's something I need to be very mindful of. Because if I'm mindful of it, then I can fix it. Then I can recognize it. You know, so I can back up. And I can look at this type of position. Look, I got 10 minutes on the clock. I have lots of time to think, okay, which is the best way? Let's calculate carefully. Where instead, I played this in 30 seconds. And blew it. Okay? So hopefully you found that helpful. Again, a glimpse of how I'm losing these games, of how I'm playing poorly, but still trying to get lessons out of it. This will be probably the last video for this week. I played a classical game, another one, where I was playing really, really well, and my opponent randomly resigned after about 12 moves. Maybe he had to, you know, leave or what have you. So, but I'm not going to make a video based off 12 moves on an incomplete game where he resigned in a slightly inferior position. So that might be the only video for the next little bit. But hope you enjoyed that, and I'll have more in the coming weeks. So again, comments, criticism, all that would be fantastic. Let me know. If you ever want to talk about chess, leave me a comment either here or on my blog, SmithyQ.com, or you can find me on the various chess sites around the net. That's that. Okay, so thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Bye for now.